Okay, Ardea is our speaker today, but Ardea itself is actually a relatively new educational program run through the Nature Center. Its first class was actually in 2020, so it is pretty new. It accepts high school students who want to learn to be climate leaders. The participants make a large time and activity commitment. So I would like to congratulate all of the current, future, and past high schoolers taking the program and learning to be climate leaders. Maya, you're doing the presentation?
Yes, I'm doing the presentation. So I'm here today representing the Ardea Youth Climate Coalition of Kalamazoo. Like Nikki was saying, we are a group of high school students that work kind of through the Nature Center, but also a little bit on our own. We work in the community for local climate action, environmental justice, and peer education. So I'm one of the senior leaders of Ardea this year. And basically what that means is I've been in Ardea before, so I kind of know what's up. So I'm one of three. The other ones are Olivia Schenker and Elliot Spolstra. And Elliot, this is his fourth year in Ardea, and he was part of the 2020 founding group, and he's going to be leaving next year. So that's a little bit of a sad thing for us. But anyway, today we wanted to talk a little bit about everything that we've done this year, because we've done a lot this year, and we're really proud of that. We also wanted to share some of the things that we have going on for the rest of the year, so hopefully you guys can get involved. And then we also wanted to talk a little bit about how you all can support youth activists. So let's get to it. That's basically what I just said. Table of contents. So these are the Ardea members this year. This is our little About Us tabling flyer. Basically, there's 10 of us. You can see all of our names on there and our beautiful senior pictures. I guess the gist is that 7 of us are from Kalamazoo Central. I'm from Mattawan High School. Andy is from Gull Lake High School, and Harper is from Portage Central High School, and we're all seniors. So next year, Ardea is going to be completely brand new and fresh for the first time ever. So that's kind of nervous, kind of exciting. So we'll see how it goes, but we're all very excited. So what have we been up to? This year, like I said, we've done more than we ever have, and we have so much more to come. So we started off our year very strong in September with first the CCL Regional Conference, and then our very first event was our Fridays for Future protest. So I guess let's talk about the CCL Regional Conference a little bit. I think there was 4 of us that went. It was so long ago now. But it was really fun because that was kind of our first event as a small group, but a group nonetheless. And it was amazing. We learned so much. We got to meet some other amazing youth activists from Indiana and Wisconsin, I think. And we've all been keeping up with them. So that was a very cool little moment for us. We got to network with them. But overall, we learned so much, and it was a really great learning opportunity. And then we were able to go and apply it all at our Fridays for Future protest, which was on September 15th. And that was in accordance with the Fall Global Strike Day. So we gathered, I think the estimate is like over 100 people on the steps of City Hall at noon. So yeah, we did a school strike. We all left school. And we marched kind of around, we marched down the Kalamazoo Mall, down the busy road, and then back towards Bronson Park. And we had myself as a speaker, Elliot as a speaker, and Denise Kale from Michigan Climate Action Network as a speaker. And we had an awesome news article written about us by Second Wave. So if you haven't read it, you should totally look it up and read about us. But yeah, it was great. The theme of the strike was ending the era of fossil fuels. So we were really talking about, why it's so, well, first off, why it's so bad, because most of the audience there was high school students that don't typically get involved in this kind of stuff. So it was cool to have them there. So we were talking a little bit about why fossil fuels are bad, and then why we need to stop them now. And then we all got to march about it and do awesome chants, and it was great. And then that same month, just a couple weeks later, we had another big rally. This one we did not plan. We went to the Climate Rally for Our Future, I think that's what it was called, organized by Michigan League of Conservation Voters and another organization that I forget the name of. Jace is here. I'm sure he could tell me what it was. But that was awesome. So it was me, Andy, and Harper that got to go to that. And we jumped on a bus from the sustainability office at like 7 in the morning. And we hightailed it to Lansing for an awesome day of action. We did a huge march around the Capitol. We got to meet a bunch of young activists. We got to talk to our representatives. We even got, so they like split us up into groups, and each group went and talked to a legislator. And we even got roped into doing another one for someone who lost his group, but they were late. And we got to go and talk to a legislator that was very much a climate denier. So that was a very interesting experience for all of us, like first thing in the year. It was overall a really great day. We had so much fun standing on the steps, chanting, waving signs around, getting our picture taken, talking to cool people. And overall, it was a really great experience, and I would totally do it again in a heartbeat. So then we moved on, October. So our first action in October was also kind of like a political thing, and it was actually the very following week of the climate rally. So we were in Lansing for the climate rally, and then the very next week we were back in Lansing again. And that's what this picture on the right is. That's all of us standing outside the Capitol. We were invited by Representative Julie Rogers to testify before the House Education Committee on a new bill on environmental literacy and climate education. So I actually was able to give a testimony. And it was very interesting, I would say, because half the committee is Democrats, the other half is Republicans. All the Democrats were very into what I was saying. And then afterwards, some of the Republicans were a little into it, but then there was literally one guy that looked at me and he said, well, you should come to my town in the UP where it snows. So that was another interesting experience early in the year. But anyway, it was overall really awesome. I was very nervous, but we got through it. And yeah, it was amazing. So this bill, I don't remember. I think it was like House Bill 4961. I think that's what it was. But basically, the goal of the bill was to create an environmental literacy task force. And this task force would be made up of like a dozen individuals, principals, teachers, and then like environmental experts from various government departments. And they would all come together, do the whole debating thing, and come up with a model curriculum for Michigan schools about, they didn't really say climate change, but about environmental literacy. And I was very pleased to see that a big part of what they were trying to do is implement more place-based learning and outdoor experiences in our classrooms, which I'm a huge place-based education advocate. So that was really awesome for me to see. And it was really, really cool to be a part of pushing that legislation. I don't really know where it's at so far, but I'm really hoping it's doing well. So that was our first bit in October. And then a couple of days after that, we went to the Great Lakes Peace Jam Fall Slam, and we had a great time. So the Fall Slam this year was very mental health focused. So it was all about giving Kalamazoo youth resources, education, and like a safe place to talk about mental health. So me and Olivia and Andy, we ran a nature connection workshop with the kids. So we had several different groups come through with varying ages from like kindergarten all the way up to like 5th grade and maybe middle school. But we got a bunch of basil plants and a bunch of petunia plants. And what we did with them is we planted them in little pots together. Here's my cat. We planted them in little pots together, and we talked about why it's so important to be outside. And we kind of talked about like our personal experiences, and we shared a little bit about what places in nature have made us feel secure, why that is, why it's important to continue going outside. And then we talked a lot about like self-affirmations and how you can kind of use inanimate objects like a little plant to tell them self-affirmations, but you're kind of telling it to yourself too. So that was really fun. And then after we did our workshop, which we had like 3 or 4 groups that we did that with, There was a youth mental health panel, which is what the picture here shows. And Olivia and I were on the panel as climate anxiety experts, but we've definitely been through it before. So yeah, we got a lot of good questions from the kids, and it was really, for me, it was really amazing to be able to share what I've been through and then what I've learned as part of that with these kids who are probably around the same age that I was when I was struggling with climate anxiety. So that was really cool. And we also got to talk about activism and our work in Ardea, which I always love to do. So yeah, overall, Fall Slam was very good. And it makes me so sad that Peace Jam is no longer around to do another one. Our last thing that we did in October, which is not pictured here, is we had a pretty good amount of us, we went to the nature center for their fall tree planting day, and we spent like 5 hours out there planting little baby trees. Again, it was a while ago now, so my memory is not the best, but I believe the goal was to help restore the sugar bush and sequester carbon dioxide, of course, because that's what trees do. There's something else, but I don't remember it. But anyway, yeah, it was really cool. That was really like the first time that Ardea together had done a real stewardship opportunity. So it was really, really fun to be able to like get down and dirty and get our hands in the dirt and plant some trees together. And it was overall very fun. And I would also do that again in a heartbeat. So that was October. In November, we had 2 amazing events, and I'm going to skip over the really fun picture on the right and talk about the picture on the left a little bit more. So on November 2nd, we hosted Powerpalooza in conjunction with Jace from Michigan League of Conservation Voters. So we kind of did a little collaboration there. And this was a really fun event. It went so much better than I was personally expecting, to be frank. But basically what we did is we took a bunch of tables and a bunch of signs, and we set up in like a common area on Western's campus. And we had some live music going. We had some high schoolers with a guitar and one of those little box drums and a speaker, and they were really good. So we were drawing people in that way, and we had free pizza. What college kid is going to refuse free pizza? So we were able to draw in a bunch of kids and get them to call Speaker of the House, Joe Tate, and urge him to support the Clean Energy Future Plan. So in about 2 or 3 hours, I think it was, we got probably around 60 kids to call and a couple parents that were coming to support. And it was really, really awesome because the bill package passed literally that night, right after we did that whole event. So I don't know how truthful this statement is, but I like to think that we had a pretty direct hand in that process. But overall, it was a really awesome event. I feel like we did a lot of good work. And then because of that, we got to go to the right picture. So we were actually invited to the bill signing of the Clean Energy Future Plan. We got to be there on stage as everybody was giving their speeches. And then as Governor Whitmer herself signed the bills into action. And then we also got to go to the awesome after party and meet her, which is where that picture came from. And yeah, it was probably one of my favorite experiences of my entire 18 years. It was really cool. Yeah, so that was November. We didn't really do anything in December because of the holidays. We did have a really fun Ardea holiday party. So we did do that. Nothing action-wise in December, though. We were planning for our big January event, which is the 2023 Climate Celebration, which technically was in 2024, but the holidays. It is what it is. So the Climate Celebration, this is something that we organize pretty much ourselves. And our goal was, with everything that happened in 2023, from the bill signing to there was a lot of oil, like national offshore oil programming that was going on that ended up really favorable for us. So with all of that going on and everything else going on in the community, we really wanted to take a second and kind of step back and say, this was a really great year. Let's celebrate all of our work. So we invited a bunch, pretty much, I mean, KC3 was there, CCL was there, MLCV was there. Pretty much everybody was there with their tables, and we had games, and we had a little art exhibit, and we had a little library, and we did a panel, and it was overall such a great time. Everyone had so much fun. And I think our goal with this was not only to celebrate everything that went on, but to celebrate each other. Because, this work, I'm sure we all know that this work can get kind of exhausting sometimes with just how much there constantly is. It seems like it's never ending. But we wanted to kind of celebrate each other and all of that work and kind of foster a little bit of hope and community as we went into the new year of action. And I personally feel like we did that. So overall, I think it was a really successful event, and I'm really glad we did it. And I will totally push that for Ardea next year to organize, because I think it just went so well. So that's what this bottom picture is from. That's our little table at the Arcus Center. That's where we had it, which if you haven't been to the Arcus Center, find a reason to go there because it's awesome. And then later that month, we worked with CCL to organize a snowman protest, which was probably one of the most fun ideas for a protest I've ever heard of. Like, our Fridays for Future March was great, but this something about building snowman and like having that be a protest, it was awesome. So the goal of this protest was, of course, to say 2023 was the hottest year on record. We are going to be losing our winters, and snowmen are endangered species now. So that's pretty much what we were hoping to say. And then we were pushing a carbon tax, of course, because it was CCL. That's kind of their jam. The snow honestly wasn't the best. It didn't pack very well. You can kind of tell by the way we just mounded it up in that picture. But we still had a lot of fun. We built probably around a dozen snowmen in Bronson Park. We gave them all really fun signs. We took, obviously, some very fun pictures. And then we built some little mini snowmen on the steps of City Hall, which the snow wasn't great, so it didn't go that well. But the sentiment was there. You could tell what we were trying to do. And I think it was just a great idea. We got some media coverage for that. Second Wave again. Another great article if you haven't read it already. Yeah, overall, very fun. Definitely would do again. I feel like today would have been a good day for a snowman protest, even though it's now almost April, but you can't tell climate change what to do, I guess. So anyway, that was our January. February, we again didn't really have much going on because we've been planning for our spring events, which we'll get into in a little bit. But we did do the Make It Happen Monday podcast with Kid Network. Honestly, this was really, really fun. I was not expecting it to be the way that it ended up being. So that was a pleasant surprise. And I think it went really well. So obviously you can see all of us sitting here from left to right. It's Eddie, Elliot, me, Olivia, Andy, and Harper. And we talked with Genesis Griffin from the Kid Network, basically just about what we've been doing. And then the conversation kind of spiraled a little bit more into just general climate change, right? And it was really interesting because Genesis was saying that Kid Network hasn't really done the climate work before, so that's not something that they're very educated in. So we were talking about what we know as our Ardea Youth Climate leaders, what we've learned in our training weeks during the summer, and kind of how we can connect that to the Kalamazoo area. And I think it was really cool that she was so into it, and she very much wanted Kid Network to kind of expand into that realm and see what they could do. So hopefully there will be another cool partnership there in the future. But yeah, so it was a really great podcast. It is like 45 minutes long. So like, if you're going to watch it, give yourself a chunk of time. If you go on YouTube and search up Genesis Griffin, Make It Happen Monday podcast, it should pop up. And it's the February 19th edition. And I'm pretty sure that's the cover image. So you should be able to see us. So February, now we're into March. So our first event this March was helping out at the Kalamazoo Nature Center's Maple Sugar Festival, which this is our second year in a row doing it. And I will never get tired of Maple Sugar Festival. So both years we were out at the Pioneer Cabin and we were running the sugaring demonstration. The museum people and take people around the site and show them what was going on, give them the little museum spiel. That's how I like to think about it. And then answer any questions. And this year it was really interesting because they had the horse-drawn carriage rides loading and unloading right there. So we got like a torrent of little toddlers running through, and I thought it was adorable. But anyway, yeah, the Maple Sugar Fest is always so fun, and I love doing it. Just for me, but also I think it's fun to kind of like get together and do something that's not directly climate related for once. So that was fun. We did have an Ardea table there though, so we got to network a little bit, talk about us, what we've been up to. So that was really fun. And I'm very looking forward to doing it again next year, even though I won't be part of Ardea. I will find a way. Anyway, so the next thing that we did is a tour of a tour, I should say, of some Kalamazoo County schools. That was actually this past week. We've been doing that. So on Monday, we went into Portage Central High School, and on Wednesday, we went into Portage Northern High School. And in both schools, we talked to the environmental science classes about climate change, climate justice, and then, of course, about us and what we do. And the goal here was kind of to, one, bring a little bit of climate education into the mix, but then also recruit for Ardea next year because our application is officially open and applications are being accepted through April 1st. So we were trying to get the word out a little bit and just get some interest in both applying for Ardea and attending Ardea events, because I think generally, unless you go to Kalamazoo Central, because we have 7 members there this year, people don't really know about Ardea. Well, people my age don't really know about Ardea. So we wanted to kind of spread the word that way and then also recruit for next year. And also bring climate education into the mix, because that's really one of our core pillars as Ardea climate leaders is peer education. So the school systems in this area, frankly, don't really teach you about climate change. Like, I took AP environmental science my sophomore year of high school, and we had like maybe 2 lessons that touched on it. And it was basically exclusively limited to fossil fuels and a couple other things produce greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases warm the climate. That's bad. And that's it. That's all we learn. AP environmental science, or environmental sciences general, is not a required class. So it's not even like all the kids are getting that limited information. It's only a limited number of kids getting a limited amount of information. And that's true across all the schools in this region. So we really wanted to kind of bring the topic up a little bit. And then, because we're in environmental science classes, we didn't want to focus on the science part of it too much, just because they do have that very limited knowledge about it. We've also focused more on the climate justice side, because that is definitely something that is not talked about at all. I didn't even know what climate justice was until I became part of Ardea. So that's how limited our knowledge is as in these school systems. So unfortunately, I personally wasn't able to go because I had school, but the verdict was they went fairly well, and there was a lot of interest. So I think we did our job. And then, of course, the last thing that we're doing in March is this very presentation. So you've all been part of our day schedule for this year. Congratulations. So anyway, I think, yeah, so now we're going to move on to what we're doing the rest of the year. And I guess I'll kind of explain these pictures really quick first. So in the bottom right corner, that was from the bill signing. You can see Governor Whitmer standing in the background. And then to her, well, I guess if you're looking at it, to her left is Harper. Directly behind her is me. And then a little bit to her right in the green skirt is Olivia. So we were literally right there in all the action. It was so cool. On the bottom left, that was from the Michigan League of Conservation Voters climate rally in Lansing. So that was the first representative that we got to talk to. We got a picture with him. We posted it on social media, of course. He was really receptive. He definitely listened to us and listened to what we had to say, which was really a good experience for me, because that was honestly my first time ever talking to a legislator like that. So I was kind of nervous going into it, but it went really well. And I mean, honestly, we had a pretty powerful mix of people in that group. So I think it went really well. And then The top right is, of course, from our snowman protest. That's a sign that me and one of my friends made. So we planted it like right before all of our snowmen. It made for a pretty good photo op, as you can see. So now what about the rest of the year? April's plan. So it's coming up quick and we have a lot planned in April. So our first thing is probably our, well, I would say biggest, but we've got a lot going on in April, so I'm not going to say that. Our first event is Clean Up Kalamazoo, which is what the flyer in the middle is for. So we have organized a cleanup along the Kalamazoo River Valley Trail on Saturday, April 13th. And we do have a RSVP form for this, so I'll put that in the chat, maybe. We have been working with Kalamazoo City people to organize this, and we have PPE and pickup materials being provided. So we ask that everyone that wants to come to please fill out the form so that we can allocate the appropriate amount of resources. But anyway, so this cleanup action comes as part of a statewide effort. So one of the other things that Ardea has been involved in recently that's not on here is that we have joined the Michigan Earth Day Coalition, which is a group of student activists from across the state of Michigan working with the Earth Day Network or earthday.org to organize coordinated statewide events in Earth Month. So the international theme of Earth Month this year, or Earth Day, is planet versus plastics. So we really wanted to come up with some events that embraced that theme, and the obvious answer is, of course, a cleanup. So the hope is that with all of these cleanups going on across the state, we're not only picking up trash, but we're doing waste audits. So basically what that means is we're gonna bring all the trash back, put it together. Unfortunately, we're going to have to sort through it, which is why the PPE is necessary. So we're going to do a little bit of sorting, a little bit of inventory, collect things to be recycled, take a whole bunch of data, and then hopefully we'll be able to use that data in both outreach and like our tabling, but also we hope to work with some news source, haven't figured out which one yet, to create an article about that because I feel like we're going to get some pretty good data. So we're really excited for that. That's on April 13th from 9 to 11 a.m. And then also on April 13th is Eco in the Zoo, which if you haven't heard of it, definitely put it on your calendars because it's going to be amazing. So Eco in the Zoo is going to be from 10 to 4 on the same day. And it's going to be like a sustainability showcase of everything sustainability going on in Kalamazoo. So that's going to be taking place downtown. Ardea is going to have a table. And we are going to have all of the information that we collect from our cleanup there. And we're also going to use some of the waste that is not completely gross. We're going to use some of it to create a community art piece to kind of draw attention to the plastics in our environment. So really looking forward to that. Definitely mark your calendars because it's going to be great. So that's on April 13th. The following week on Friday is the WMU Climate Justice Rally, which I think somebody was mentioning before we started. So that's something that I personally have been very involved in. I'm on the planning committee for that. I just had a meeting for it yesterday. It's going to be great. So the climate rally is both for climate justice, just because we want to bring awareness to that issue in Kalamazoo, but it also happens to align with the Fridays for Future Spring Global Strike Day. So we'll be incorporating those messages into it a little bit too. And it also happens to correlate with some of the events that we're doing for the Earth Day Coalition. So we're also going to be incorporating some anti-plastic messages in there too. So there'll be a lot of stuff going on, but it's going to be amazing. And I'm really, really excited. So the plan is to march from WMU or K College to Bronson Park. And then we have a rally starting in Bronson Park at 4 p.m. So we have parking available. We rented out an entire parking structure, I think. So parking, we're good. And we're going to be meeting at the flagpoles next to the rec center on the corner of West Michigan Avenue and Ring Road North. So that's where we'll be meeting. We're going to march. Kalamazoo College has a group meeting at the Red Square. I personally don't know what that is, but if you're familiar with K College, maybe you do. So they're going to be meeting at the Red Square, and then we're going to join together and finish the march to Brunson Park together. So Kalamazoo Public Safety has been notified of this event. So everything's completely over the table, completely safe. We're good. And then in Bronson Park, we're going to have the rally. So we'll have some music. We'll have a bunch of tabling. We'll have some free popcorn. So if you want free popcorn, this is a good place to get it. And then we're also going to have an awesome lineup of speakers, myself included. So I'm really excited for that. So that's on the 19th. The very next day happens to be my prom, but we also will be at Kalamazoo Nature Center all morning tabling with their Earth Day celebration. So it'll be a packed day for me, but I'm very excited. So we will have a table at I think it's like community showcase is what they're calling it or something like that. But there's a bunch of events scheduled throughout the day. The Nature Center has a whole page about it on their website. Definitely go check it out because there's a lot of cool stuff happening that day. And I think the event will be open from like 9:30 to like 3 or 4 on Saturday, April 20th. So we'll be there for a while. Very excited about that. And then 2 days later, on Earth Day itself, we still are working on organizing it. We're organizing a plastic palooza. So if you remember, we organized Power Palooza in November, and that went really well. So we're hoping to kind of do the same thing, but for plastics. So we found some legislation that's currently in the Michigan House of Representatives. It's House Bill 4359. And basically what it does is it repeals a previous act that was passed in like 2016 that prohibits local governments from regulating plastics. So this bill would undo that, and governments would then be able to regulate plastics again. So it was everything from like bags, packaging, cups, all that jazz. But in committee, it was edited, and they are not including bags anymore. So that will be a separate issue we'll have to campaign for. But overall, it's still some really good legislation, and definitely the first step in phasing out plastics here in the great state of Michigan. So we're really excited about that. We also are hoping to get some Line 5 stuff in there. So we'll have a lot of stuff for people to call or write letters for, and I'm really excited. We're going to do some great work. And then our last event in April is probably our most packed month to date. We are doing a youth activism workshop as part of the Spring into Action series. So that will be, I think it's like 4 to 6 p.m. In the WMU Lee Honors College Lounge. So we'll have a panel of us so that we can kind of answer questions that people have about youth activism. And then we'll also like do the workshop aspect of it. And then we're also going to do some climate anxiety art. So overall, it should be a very educational and fun event. Frankly, we haven't started organizing that yet, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to go so well, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited for April, even though it's less than a month away. So we have a lot on the lineup. So April is definitely our busiest month, but we do have some stuff planned in May. This is probably going to be our second biggest event of the year. It is our second annual spring event. So we did one last year. It went so well. So we thought, why not do it again? So basically, for those of you that weren't at spring event last year, spring event is a thrifting and sustainable fashion event. So we are going to be going to Grand Rapids. We're going to go to the Goodwill bins. We're going to scour through tons and tons of clothes, get a bunch, bring them back to KZoo, and then put them on display for everybody to buy and peruse. So the goal here is to raise money for next year's coalition. And us kids, we like clothes and we like them cheap. So there's no better way to raise money than a thrifting event. So last year, we really focused on the thrift shop side of it. And this year, of course, we want to have that because that's how we get the money. But we also want to focus a little bit more on the sustainable fashion side. So we're hoping to have some workshops with things like maybe a sewing 101 or upcycling or visible mending, stuff like that, so that people can know how to fix their clothes and don't just throw it away as soon as they get a rip. You know, trying to make the clothes we have last a little bit longer. And then we're also going to talk about fast fashion, why that's so horrible. And then overall, just trying to educate on sustainable fashion, because us kids, we love our fashion. So that is going to be on May 25th. It's a Saturday. I think this flyer says 3 to 7 p.m. Honestly, I'm not sure if that's right because we did change the time once. But all of these updates, all of this stuff will be on our Instagram, which I can put in the chat afterwards. So if you want to stay up to date, definitely check out our Instagram. That's where we post all our updates. So this one will also be at the ARCA Center of Social Justice at K College. So that there's your excuse to go to the ARCA Center. You should just come to our thrift event and buy some clothes because they're going to be cheap and it's going to be great and it's going to be a good cause. So that's spring event. We are doing clothing pickups for spring event. So if you have any clothes that you'd like to donate that you don't wear anymore, on May 18th, which is a Saturday, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., we're doing pickups at 3 high schools: Kalamazoo Central, Loy Norix, and my school, Matawan. So whichever one you're closest to, bring some clothes. We'll take them. We'll sell them. We'll get them out of your closet for you. And then the other thing that I'll say is that all of the clothes that we have left over, which is probably going to be a lot, we're going to try to donate to the Kalamazoo Gospel Mission, but in general, we will be donating them, so they're going to a good cause too. We also are going to be featured on the Kalamazoo Earth Day Connecting Communities podcast in May. We don't have a date for that yet. We just said that we would do it. So keep an eye out on our Instagram for when that's going to be. I'm really excited for that one. I've been following them on Instagram and watching those for a long time. So now I get to be on it. So that's kind of fun for me. But yeah, that's our May. And May is when Ardea ends. So we only have 2 more months. It's kind of sad, but nonetheless, we have a great lineup going on. So the last thing that I'll talk about before we go to any questions is how can you help support Ardea? So we are a youth-based group, and this is only our 4th year again, so we're still fairly small. So the best way that you all can support us is sharing our events and kind of helping us rally some support for those. So like I said, all of our stuff is on Instagram, so that's definitely the best place to stay up to date, and then sharing it in whatever way you can to your personal networks, to your family, to your friends, whatever. We will take all of it. Yeah, so I guess I'll just read this. Ardea thrives on our community, and we love to see people like you at our events. So that's really our big goal, is to bring this community together in opportunities for action. So that's our goal, and we'd love it if you helped us with that goal. And then the final thing is that if you know anyone passionate about fighting against climate change, let them know that we are accepting applications for next year. So again, those applications are due on April 1st. So we have just a couple more weeks, and all of that can be found at the Kalamazoo Nature Center website. And then you have to go to like the education tab, and then you click Heronwood, and then you click Youth Climate Leaders, and then the application is there. So it's kind of a long process, but you can get there. Just some quick requirements. All our Ardea climate leaders, because we are kind of funded by KRESA, all climate leaders have to be either living or attending school in Kalamazoo County. We only accept high school students, so unfortunately I can't apply again next year. I'm kind of bummed about that. And then we do have a week-long training week over the summer with an overnight at the end, and you must be able to commit to all of those dates. And those dates are on the Youth Climate Leaders website on the Nature Center page. And then finally, we ask that all of our climate leaders commit to at least 2 meetings per month. And that's it. And there are some really great incentives. The first one is that you get a stipend, $250 at the end of the year. It's really awesome. So all of our climate leaders get a stipend every year. However, that is based on commitment. So of course, if you don't show up to any of the meetings, you're not going to get the stipend. So you have to show up. You have to be a climate leader to get your stipend, but it's fairly easy to do that if you're passionate. So the other amazing thing is, of course, connecting with a group of like-minded students. Training week in and of itself is an amazing event. You learn so much. You get to do some awesome things, meet some awesome experts, professionals, talk to them. It's great. But the best thing about training week is getting to know other passionate students, because it's kind of hard to find those kids in a normal school setting. And then all of a sudden you're thrown into a group with 9 other ones. It's that easy. So it's definitely the best part of training week is getting to know those people, having a lot of fun. Last year, or I guess this year, last calendar year in our training week, during her overnight, we all brought onesies, like the animal onesies, and we watched a movie in the field station with hot cocoa and popcorn. So it's just like hanging out with a big friend group. It's really fun. So that's all about Ardea. That's how you can support us. That's everything going on. I hope everyone learned something. I hope everyone can commit to some of our events. And I hope you're all as excited as I am, because I'm very excited. So with that, I will open it up for questions. And let's see if I can stop sharing this screen.
Okay, thank you. That was very informative. So Steve, I believe you had a question.
Maya, thanks so much for all your energy and your excitement. This is so excited that you'll be joining us here next year. Kind of curious how Ardea got in the position of being all seniors. Is there, do you have to be an upper class person to join Ardea, or can freshmen join?
Yeah, so our only requirement, other than living or going to school in Kalamazoo County, is high school. So 9th through 12th grade. Anyone in those grades can apply and join. So it's kind of funny because, you know, this year, Ardea, we've done a lot, as we've all just seen. And this is kind of the first year that we've kind of broken out of our little nature center bubble. So the last 3 years, we've definitely been on the smaller side. So word about Ardea pretty much exclusively spread through word of mouth. So me, Olivia, and Elliot are the 3 students that were in Ardea last year. So Olivia and Elliot both go to Kalamazoo Central. They're both very environmentally minded and very passionate, and are from a friend group of equally passionate people. So they kind of just recruited all their friends. And then Olivia does the conservation biology CTE program at Heronwood. So she is in the 2nd year of that, so she's considered an intern this year. So she spread the word to the other interns and got some of them to join. So that's pretty much how we all became seniors, mostly just because friends. But that is not a requirement. Anyone is allowed to join. 9th graders, 11th graders, anybody.
So how is the recruiting through your efforts to talk to people at schools going? How are you being received?
Yeah. So like I said, I wasn't there, so I only know what I've been told. But from what I understand, it went really well. So they were actually able to do a presentation in my younger sister's class, so I got to hear it like directly from her as it was going on, and she was so interested. She said it went great, and she said that overall her class at least seemed very, very interested in our events. She did say that, so they're in an IB environmental class, which is kind of like an equivalent to an AP class. So they did kind of understand the climate science part a little bit. So she was saying that was kind of like redundant, but otherwise it went really well and they were all really interested. I'm not sure if we got any applications from those, but we were able to spread the word, and that's mainly what we were hoping to do. We have been talking with Amber about this a lot though, and she said that she is getting applications. So that's good.
Susan.
Thank you so much, Maya, for a great presentation and for all that you and the others in Ardea have been doing. I was really dismayed, though, to hear about how little coverage of climate change there is in the schools still at this point in time. Do you know if there's any kind of efforts to change that? And if so, how can we support that? Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the main thing that would really help right now is that environmental literacy bill that we were supporting in the fall. Again, I don't know where that's at right now. I'm sure you could look it up on the Michigan House government page or whatever. But in general, I feel like the main disconnect there is that the teachers themselves don't really know what's up. And that even if they do know what's up, they don't know how to teach it. So I am personally a very huge climate education advocate. So I actually did a whole presentation during our training week about climate education and place-based education. And one of the main things that I was learning in my research as I was putting that presentation together is that the typical school model that we have now, you go to class, you sit down, you receive a lecture, you take notes, you test on it. That model is not good enough for climate education just because of how big the issue is. So because it's so large, it's so abstract, and it comes with a lot of depressing aspects, it's really, really hard to effectively teach that in that kind of classroom setting. So what we really need is to incorporate more of the place-based techniques to make sure that our students aren't getting climate anxiety, they aren't getting burnt out, because those things ultimately lead to either depression, denialism, or both, right? So we need to be incorporating those things, but our teachers aren't trained in those things. So they don't know how to incorporate it, so they just avoid it altogether. So I think the main thing that we need to do is be educating our teachers on both place-based education and climate change in general. Last year in Ardea, me and Elliot were actually able to speak on a panel with Alan Webb about climate education to future educators. So creating more opportunities like that would be an amazing thing. So overall, I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay, David, I'll take you next.
I just wanted to mention that to address the question of whether, or the obstacle of teachers, K through 12 teachers not really knowing how to include climate change into their courses, you can go to the New Jersey, it's public education website. New Jersey now requires that all classes of K through 12 include some mention and some information about climate change, and to overcome the problem of teachers not being all that familiar, all that comfortable, they put lesson plans on the website. So it's and they make a big point of it being something they wish other states would use as well.
Yeah, totally. That was actually something that I was looking into as I was putting that presentation together. And yeah, it's really awesome. And I think one of the coolest things about the New Jersey curriculum is that the requirement is that climate change be taught across the board. So it's not just going on in their science classes. They're learning about it in their social studies classes, in their government classes, in their writing classes, and that's really what we need. So I definitely think New Jersey has the model curriculum there for sure.
Great.
Okay, Steve, back to you.
Did you know, Maya, that there's a big river cleanup happening just the next week after yours?
Yeah, the paddle cleanup. We've been working with Melissa Miller, who organized that. We've been working with her to organize ours.
All right, great. Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to go in a different direction from Riverfront Park, like go towards Comstock instead of.
Our plan is to meet at Mayor's Riverfront Park, and we're going to go both directions down the trail. So the cleanup happening the following week is taking place directly in the river, like they're going to be on kayaks. So we're going to be just on foot on the trail surrounding it. So I think we might be in the same area, but we'll still be in like different situations and getting even more trash picked up.
Okay, now I had a question. How do you juggle being a full-time student with all of the commitments that you have with Ardea?
Good question.
And is that a problem in recruiting?
That's a very good question. I don't think that's a problem in recruiting, solely because kids don't understand what they're getting into, honestly. Once we go through training week. So I guess the thing about each year of Ardea is that this program is really driven by this group of students. So whatever they're interested in, that's what they do. So that's each year is so completely different because of that. And this year we've had a lot of motivated individuals, which is why we've been able to do so much. The other thing about this year that's a little different is that we are all seniors. And while that does typically mean we have a couple more AP classes, we generally have more flexible schedules. So like I get out of school at 11, which is why I'm able to be here today. And then we have several other members who have like one class in the morning. So we have a lot of flexibility there. However, last year I was still a member of Ardea and I had a full schedule and I still had APs. So I guess the main thing that I think Ardea students need to be successful in this program is a really good sense of time management. And I'm still working on it. We're all still working on it, but definitely that's the key. So getting all your homework done and being able to spend a couple hours a week doing Ardea stuff. And I think why we've been able to be so successful, because we're still teenagers and we're not great at time management, is because of how passionate we all are. And that's kind of what the training week is for. We get to know each other. We get to know our own climate stories. We get to touch into that whole side and figure out why we are personally so passionate about this. And then we get to learn about it and be like, okay, this is not okay. Now that I have my whole climate story and I have this awesome group of individuals, I'm ready to act on it. So that's the beauty of this program, is that we get to combine all those things together and really create the perfect brew of motivated high school students, I guess I would say. So it's really the passion and the motivation that comes with that passion that I think helps manage the time a little bit better. But of course, it's always going to be a challenge. But yeah, time management skills is definitely the key.
Well, my next question then is, how are you planning on continuing once you go to college? You're out of the Ardea system. I don't know if you're going to WMU or to some other school, but how are you continuing to be a climate activist once you're out of this environment?
Yeah, so that's definitely something that, I mean, I have some plans for, but frankly, I'm a little bit nervous, I will say, about how that transition is going to go. But I mean, I've been doing this work in some type of way since 5th grade. And, you know, I've grown up going outside, so I have that whole stuff. So I'm going to be a climate activist for my whole life. But I would say right now, looking at next year, so I am going to be going to WMU next year. So I'll be around for the next 4 years, can do more presentations like this. So the first thing is that I've been offered the Medallion Scholarship at Western, which is their highest academic achievement scholarship. I get a full ride, I get free college, which I will say, for all of our prospective Ardea students in the room, I got that scholarship because of what I did in Ardea. That's a side note. So as a Medallion student, we have like cohort projects. So every year of students has a different project they're working on. And the project that I'll be working on next year happens to be about water. So we're going to be like building water filters, talking about water injustices. And I think I might even get to go to Guatemala and install them in some impoverished communities. So that'll be a really cool experience. So I have that kind of like set in stone for me because of this scholarship. Mm-hmm. However, my other plans, you know, this past year with everything that we've been doing, I've really been able to kind of expand my network and get to know the people in this community a little bit more, between everyone at CCO, everyone at MLCV, everyone at KC3, working with the climate change working group at Western. So really my main hope is to continue with those relationships, working in those organizations. The last thing is that right before my first year of Ardea 2 years ago, I was one of the co-founders of a nationwide youth activist organization. It's called National Youth for the Climate Emergency. Our acronym is NICE. We have 3 founders, myself, another high school senior in Colorado, and then our last one, he's actually in Canada now in his first year of college. So we haven't been as active as I'd like, just because of this phase of life that we're all in together. So my hope is that next year I can kind of build that up a little bit more and get that going again and see where that takes me. So that's my plan.
Cool. Steve.
Yeah, just a follow-up on that, Maya. Are you, given that everyone in Ardea next year is going to be brand new, are you planning on being a mentor for them to sort of show them the ropes?
Yeah, 100%. So I think, honestly, one of the things I'm most excited for in the next few months with going to Western is I'm still going to be here and I'm going to be able to attend training week and help out in whatever way I can. I'm not going to attend training week. It's not my training week anymore. I don't want to get in their way, but I definitely want to be there in any way I can for like presentations, just to talk about what it was like. I will also say for all of the prospective Ardea students in the room, because of all this work that we've been doing, last year I was named Michigan's 2023 Youth Climate Leader of the Year. So that's because of all this work. So I would love to be able to talk about how I managed to do that with them and how they can also do it too. So I'm really excited about that, actually.
Are there any other questions, comments? Deb, you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. That is, are you doing anything as far as fundraising that we could donate to help you go back to Washington as a group? Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, so just because we've all been so busy this spring with our senior schedules and also planning for all of our events, the CCLDC trip is not something we've gotten a real chance to talk about yet. However, we briefly mentioned it and there's a lot of interest, especially with myself. I will be there no matter what. So definitely in the coming weeks, we'll talk about that a little bit more and I can let you know if we need anything.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Maya. This was really very good.
I
Bye,
hope to
everyone.
see you all at some of our future events.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Great work.
Bye.